live on Instagram and on Substack. Only had to reload that. Yep, I only had to reload that plugin like four. God,
let's go live.
Excellent, cool. I will roll this out.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Look at Johnny Million on the live stream in his sexy WCPT 820 AM shirt that Devin gave him last week when we were gathered together, dearly beloved, to think through this thing we call life, at the sold out Max and Benny's live version of the show with
you could not have fit more people in there. I think that there were people that were waiting outside for other people to leave.
There were. We had some people rotating in and out, absolutely, and which just says to me we got to do more of these, and you know, move them about. We got to. I was saying we should, you know, in honor of Charlie Kirk and the Toilet Paper USA crowd turning on Trump and then turning back and then turning on Trump again, we need to do a college campus like. Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's wingman, change my mind. You know what I mean? Like, Trump is in the Epstein files, change my mind. And I have to say, as gifts that keep on giving go, my lord. Okay, you're familiar with the Strisand effect, are you not, Johnny Million?
I am. It's one of my favorites.
Yes. Do you know the history of it? Tell me what you know about the Strisand effect. Explain to the folks, if you would.
I heard that... I don't know if it was published in a magazine, but there was a picture of Barbra Streisand's house. That
Her
was
compound. And I think we all desire to have a compound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was big. And it was labeled, this is Barbra Streisand's house. And Barbra Streisand was like, I really don't want a picture of my house with my name underneath it. So do everything you can to rid the world of that. Was it on the internet?
Yeah,
no.
Scrub it. Yeah, try to scrub it from the internet. And then like,
and the effort to scrub it increased people's interest exponentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also people who weren't even interested in seeing her house suddenly just wanted to see it just to be a jerk. You know what I mean? Like, just because they thought, how dare you?
A little. Oh yeah, that's a big deal.
I have to say that I can understand why celebrities, people who are well known, people who might have, stalkers and people who fixate on them and that kind of stuff, might not want their image and their home, their children, their address posted online. I can get where that would, you'd want that, right?
Is this why you keep changing your number on me, Hal?
No, it isn't actually. That's like I put it on the internet faster than I'd let you have it again. After what you've done, shame on you. I don't even.
Hal let me change the spelling of my name in his contact list on his phone at the live
That's
show.
right, which has been in there since my Motorola in the 90s, I think. Yeah.
It was insane. He just let me pick up his phone and start editing around. I'm like, this guy trusts me like nobody's business.
I do. I adore you. And I don't fear you because I also know that I have the ability technologically to do terrible, terrible things. I never would, but I can. And so I don't know if we'll turn this. Eventually, this will become like the Streisand effect will eventually become the Epstein effect, or will become the Trump effect, right? The Donald effect. I think we should call it that because he hates being called Donald, which is why Macron does it all the time, which I love. Donald. He calls him that because he literally read an article that Trump hates being called Donald. It's gorgeous.
Oh,
anyway,
that's amazing.
Yeah. It's along with the big handshaking thing. So, I've had the unfortunate, professional responsibility to dive deep into the things that I've been talking about. There's certain times where stuff has come up that's just not in my wheelhouse. Especially economics. Like I have a subscription to Bloomberg, Market Watch, and the Wall Street Journal now that I have had since I started the live stream because literally because there were economic stories about what Trump was selling and telling people that I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound right to me. But I'm not an economist. Maybe I have, what passes for common sense to one person is a common misconception in other areas, right? So I don't want to fall into that trap. I don't want to be, where I'm like, just something I heard, like, I don't want to Joe Rogan it. I don't want to, something I half saw on a clip somewhere informs me.
Right.
And that, it happens to everybody. We all hear something that is built up to a groundswell that becomes, sort of online common knowledge that is wrong, right? And so it's good to be guarded against that. So I have to study some of these topics. And I had the joy. Many people who watch the live stream at infotainmentwars.com, we have all the documents, but we don't need them because we have them memorized. Thank you very much. Many people remember that like a year and a half ago, I had the joy of watching Bloomberg write an article that explained how I've been right. Hal Sparks has been right for the last 2.5 years about the Chinese economy and the fact that we have supply shock and not monetary inflation under Biden because of COVID, right? And I was saying this, and it was like, until I was blue in the face, it's so patently obvious, but it took them so long to write that article. Hey, maybe it's not the amount of money in circulation. Maybe it's the fact that all the ships have been at a standstill, and now that they're moving again, people are all paying extra to get them to come to their country first, and that drives the price up. And also, we're having problems with Xinjiang cotton, for example, because it might be curious for a good portion of America to understand how we might have sensitivity about slave-picked cotton in this country, right? We might not, that might not be a piece of history we'd like to revisit just to have a $10 t-shirt cost $8. So I had to start studying up on this. Unfortunately, around the Epstein things, that becomes really dark really quick. There is a lot of awful, a lot of brutal awful. I have found a couple of times where you ever get that thing where your skin gets hot because you're so angry. Yeah, there's a bunch of that in these things. And the story, and mixed with, of course, the sort of absurdly hilarious part of Donald Trump desperately trying to plug every hole in this ever-springing dike that he's standing in front of that is just popping.
He really must think he can, because honestly, it has worked. It has worked so far.
Right. Well, it has worked with his followers, and everybody goes, well, what's different now? What's different now? Well, I'll tell you what. Up to this point, most of the stuff we're talking about, his deals with Russia and his don't involve child rape. That's what it is. That's apparently the line, right? And good. I'm so glad that MAGA has a line at all. I mean, it's reassuring that they're even capable. Where there's a moment where, like I said, with one of the commentators on one of the shows that I cover a lot, the PBD show, that his heart has finally outrun his brain in terms of trying to talk himself out of this. That your logic and reasoning and your manipulation of your own self at some point loses steam to your heart going, this is just wrong. Yeah. And that's happening for a lot of people. And this is the consternation that I think Trump is experiencing right now, because I don't know that his heart could ever outrun his brain. Because again, lack of existence, whether it works at all, and especially with the blood that's pooling in his ankles.
They can't even get the blood out of his ankles.
Right, exactly. So in looking at all this stuff, you start to feel like everybody remembers the QAnon movement and how it kind of magically faded, and its curious internal deception, lies it told itself. My favorite one, and I don't know how up on the QAnon stuff you were, Johnny Million, when it was coming around, because I found it sort of brutally, grossly hilarious.
It invaded my consciousness a few times when it got really nuts.
Yeah, so my favorite one was at the end of Trump's presidency, there was this thing where he was going to stay in office. Trump was going to stay in office, that they were going to fix the election and all that stuff. So in 2021 and into 2020 into 2021, there was this idea that he's going to come back. And one of the things was...
Oh, yeah. They kept kicking it down the road. Like, oh, he'll be back in August. He'll be back
That's right,
in. Yeah.
right. And Mike Pillow was pushing
this. That was a big one.
And my favorite one was somewhere around November, December, was this idea that they were putting up the inaugural bleachers for Biden. And there you could see lines.
I really want to hear Tom Brokaw say that.
Yeah, inaugural bleachers for Joe Biden. That they said there was video of, first of all, Hillary had been hung on these gallows that they were building. This was even January 6th, that they were building to get rid of, the people. And then it was like, oh, wait, I thought you guys said she was hung 2 years ago. Oh, this is her clone. So apparently they're growing fresh Hillary Clintons to murder, because I don't know how a clone can be guilty of anything. That's the weird part. Right? That's amazing to me. But one of the things that we're talking about was in December of 2020 was that Trump was finally freeing all the children that were kept in the adrenochrome dungeons under the White House.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember going...
And adrenochrome is that's
the stuff that you can actually buy.
Make out of dead babies?
Yeah, but it's fresh if it comes from the head of, you stick a straw in a baby's head and just walk around at a cocktail party at a with Podesta and spirit cooking. Yeah, num. So my favorite part of that was if he was freeing the children that were held in the dungeon, how come he didn't free them as soon as he got into office? Why did he wait till he was leaving? And why have there never been children freed from a basement under there until Donald Trump was driven from office? It was such a weird turnaround, so they were there the whole time he was in office, and you didn't free them when you took over. So why? But also, how do we know they were there if they were never freed earlier until you had to leave? Like it was your furniture, you moved in from your own property and you just were taking it back. It was so amazing. So the cognitive dissonance was stunning, right? And
yeah, they're just cool with it.
Yes, and QAnon made up for about 8, depending on the depth of it, 8 to 12% of the MAGA movement hardcore. In the 36, in the 33 slice of American electoral politics, there's the deeply red MAGA, the root base of the whole thing, the never not Trumpers. People in the chat are trying to figure out it's an amazing, figure it out for me, people. He's like, they could never find the key. Trump needed the adrenochrome. It's why he didn't age while he was in office. Okay, yeah. But the root base, the absolute foundation of MAGA is QAnon. Is the pot left on the stove with all the water boiled out of it, that when you forget it, you were cooking chili and you leave it on the stove and all the water goes, that remnant that's there, that's caked on and hard to clean off and will never move, and you have to throw the pot out. That's QAnon. That's Roseanne. That's that's Alex Jones. That's Owen Schroyer. That's in many ways, the Nick Fuentes and all that crowd was like, they were convinced there is this huge group of largely Jewish people and politicians controlling the world, and those people,
the deep state,
yes, control the deep state, unelected bureaucrats who were not, who were chosen by the leadership and put in there to run things, whatever, like Doge, and that those people, are, once you get rid of those people, then America could truly be free. Then all the shackles come off. Every problem we've ever had. There's going to be Nasara Jasara, which is the elimination of all debt. The Fed will disappear. Income tax will be decided to be illegal and all that stuff. Like, they really do believe that was the key. The problem they have right now is that Donald Trump is the guy stopping any investigation into the existence of that going forward ever. It all started with the memo. We'll come back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. It all started with the memo. And it could not have been more perfect. It was the perfect memo. It was. It was the perfect. We've heard of perfect phone calls. Perfect memo. Okay. Yeah, here it is. Let's try to blow this up so I can show some of it. Oh, there's so much. Like you could just hear heads exploding, like popcorn popping in an adjacent room. Hold on. Sorry, my overhead light was on, and then yeah. All right, fixed it. So the systemic review revealed. Okay, thank you. This has got to be. Let me shrink this down so we can see it. Why won't you stop it? Okay. Minus.
It's raining cats and dogs here.
Both? Oh, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. Okay. Well, that's as big as I'm going to be able to get it on their version. But man. And hi, chat room, and hi, everybody, and hello. Good morning.
Back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So much has happened, we've almost forgotten what set this hill ablaze. That if you think the fires around Malibu were a big deal and have lasting impacts and scars on the environment, they got nothing. They got crap on this memo. This is the Bondi memo, and the two parts that really stood out and made MAGA explode was this particular part. This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. That's it. That's shut up and go home. That simple, small paragraph is what set the entire MAGA world alight, causing something that heretofore people thought was impossible, a break with the president by his most ardent supporters. The end of it also added this little piece. The conclusion that Epstein died by suicide is further supported by video footage from the common area of the special housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. As DOJ Inspector General explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the SHU common area would have been captured by this footage. By the way, so many dodges, so many things. Attempting to enter from the SHU common area would have been captured. That does not speak to the fact that you could enter on the lower level without going through the common area. You could just hug the wall and go up the stairs. So it just reeks. Like what I'm doing right there is what maggots everywhere just immediately did, because they've been living this. They've been, eating and breathing it for the better part of a decade. Some of them have, if they've been deeply into this, maybe it was doubly set off with when Alex Acosta stepped down. because of his handling of it after Trump had made him labor secretary, an odd choice at the time, but he didn't. He replaced was it Polsner or somebody like that, who is now our EU ambassador, who had to step down because of allegations that he was of domestic violence, that he beat his wife. And so that guy had to withdraw his nomination to be labor secretary. And so like Pam Bondi, Alex Acosta was his second choice. And like and like Matt Gaetz, I suppose, the other guy was his first choice, was engaged in violence against women, allegedly. So the depth of this, the experience of this, and it is, I mean, the break in the stories obviously this week is that the Wall Street Journal did an article where Donald Trump, as Ghislaine Maxwell was putting together a 50-year-old birthday book and party for Jeffrey Epstein as his girl / madam / recruiter / I don't know, slave driver, whatever, label you want to put on this terrible woman. She was putting together this getting all of his friends and family to write a book about this and about him, like write him a special note, and they should be bawdy and dirty because that's what he likes. And Trump, in it, they have this little typed out conversation between the two of them. It was like poetry. Trump drew a naked woman's body around the typed up part, signed his name where the woman's pubic hair would be, and one mentions, let every day be a wonderful secret, and enigmas never age was one of the other weird things in it. Just creepy and messed up and odd. And of course, Trump is suing them. And I have to say, when we're talking about the Strisand effect, reading the article from the Wall Street Journal, it breaks it down fairly well, but it also retreads a lot of things like it's a historical document because they have to lay in the context, because it's such a heavy thing saying this about a sitting president that they've got to back it up with all this leftover stuff, right? But the lawsuit actually explains the controversy and why it's bad better than the article does, because the lawsuit is, they accuse me of this. They say I did this. They called me a buddy and a friend and possibly a family member of Epstein's. They said I wrote
summarize
this.
all of it?
Yes, they have to for evidentiary reasons. So it's Strisand effects.
They put it all in one spot.
It's amazing. It's actually like, if you read the article, I can understand how like maggots would go, I don't believe it, it's fake, whatever. But when you read his...
Right. That's what I'm anticipating.
Right. When you read his version, the lawsuit where he is allegedly, I think, representing himself, pro se, in this thing, which is just stupid. I mean, obviously, he's going to have attorneys do it or whatever. But, and if this goes through, he's going to have to be deposed. Like, shut up. Like, it's that, like, they're ready for this. And they're wanting it because the Wall Street Journal is mad about, and its owners and everybody else are certainly angry about the tariffs and what he's doing to the dollar. They disagree with him on a bunch of policy reasons. And so maybe they were willing to look the other way if they thought the tax cuts were benefiting them up to a certain point. But now, forget it. So the breakdown of the actual lawsuit, because he has to show what the libel was, show his evidence that it was libelous, how far it reached. He inserts like tweets and posts and Substack links to people who read the article, broke it down, added their own context, added their own extra information, and said this is all part of a big, attempt to libel me, and that they were the impetus for it. And it's so well done. I almost feel like the Wall Street Journal writers would be jealous reading it, because that's how you do it. If you're gonna show that, because it not only includes the information, it not only singles it out as exactly what is defamatory, and rightly so. By the way, you can defame someone legitimately. They may be famous, and you defame. It's interesting. defamation, when applied to the average citizen, is sort of a almost a colloquialized term. You know what I mean? But when you're actually famous and you are defamed because you don't deserve to be famous because you're a scumbag, it takes on special meaning in this, anyways. So Trump is, here's the thing. So, like, some people in the chat room, and I completely agree with you guys, are saying he's going to drop it, or he'll, hope that it just goes away, or some other thing will start and he'll use it to bury that he's going to let it slide or not follow through, or he'll miss a filing deadline, or he's hoping the judge dismisses it on purpose. You can actually strategically put the attack out there and then not file something and then blame the judge. They did that a bunch of times in his fraud trials, right? Was like, his own attorneys would screw it up, and he was hoping, I think, that he could blame his attorneys and then, drag the thing out even more. Maybe that'll happen. But it's not going away. Yeah. It is not going to go away. It can't.
If it hasn't gone away yet,
nope.
And it's worse.
Oh, yeah. It's getting worse by the day. Like, everything... There's an article, people are bringing up past stuff that got, water under the bridge in a lot of ways, like how he wished Ghislaine Maxwell well and then doubled down on it in an interview later that week. I wish everybody well. Like, no, you don't. You gather up, you kicked a 4-year-old with cancer out of the country, and you hope immigrants that were, busy picking fruit and working in a chicken processing plant, you've thrown them in alligator Alcatraz with no criminal charges. No, you don't. No, right. You don't. You went out of your way to protect her, and you arguably may be the one that gets her out of jail with this hoax nonsense. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Strange bedfellows. Strange bedfellows is what we're experiencing right now. Ron Wyden's doing some amazing stuff. We'll be back.
Mm-hmm. It sounded like you were slipping into some Jeff Goldblum there.
Yes. A moment, but an important one. First it was Stretch, then Stretcheroo. Next it'll be Stretch Mark. When will it end? I'm trying to be as nice as I can. Your girlfriend is doing bouncy with another guy. She says your girlfriend Hillary. No, we're practically affianced. She calls me Honey Muffin. Yeah. This is... Hold on. I got to bring this up. And then one more article. Where is it? Rokana. Oh, yeah. That's right. Ron Wyden.
Mm-hmm. 30 seconds, gents.
Thank you. Oh boy, it's so exciting. Okay.
And his uncle teaching the Unabomber.
Oh my God.
It's just proven impossible, like every way possible.
Radio program,
well, let's in the break, as he is wont to do. Johnny Million brings up an excellent point, I try to get on him for not saving it for on the air, but look, he's not a pro radio guy. He's a rocker.
I'm not.
He's a roller. He's a dancer, romancer.
That's what I do.
He's a Capricorn and a Cancer. I don't know how that.
And a Cancer. You saw my picture in a music magazine.
Right. That one of the other big stories, of course, came out and that the White House was trying to, like, nothing to see here, is questions about Trump's health. They did something they have not previously done, which is admit that he is not the healthiest president in the history of presidents and the history of health, and that he has venous insufficiency. He has chronic venous insufficiency. He's got insufficient veins chronically, and the blood in his legs pools and doesn't go back up to his heart, so it just kind of hangs out and fills his legs.
Horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah.
Do not want.
And again, one of the things is, it can lead to deep vein thrombosis, and it can, whatever. And he had this big bruise on his hand that was recurring, and they kept putting makeup on it over and over and over again until it got so thick that nobody could pretend not to see it. Honestly, the picture that came out this week looked like they were putting spackle on the back of his hand. Yeah. It looked like they had coated his hand in coffee creamer, like hazelnut coffee creamer. That was the color that they were using on his hand. And it was to cover this recurring bruise, which he says comes from shaking hands all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
can't you imagine that, like, when you say they were putting makeup on it, don't you think that he was, because the way he insists on doing his own makeup and hair, don't you think he was doing it?
Yeah, I mean, he's so bad at hiring people. I don't doubt that he hires someone just as bad at it as he is, or that they're like, I think it's good, and he's like, no, more. Like
right.
Like, even if he has hair people and makeup people and stuff, he's like, no.
Yeah, and like,
stop at my jawline with the orange. I think it looks good. It
right.
kind of gives me
to me, it's like he's got this. It's a combo of like ego and shame. Like,
yes,
he's got to do it right, and he's embarrassed about how he has to do it.
That's right. So Trump, they've been spackling over this thing on his hand. His ankles were filmed at the FIFA thing, which again had a really odd moment where he effectively stole the medal. He took the medal and pocketed it.
I heard he won. I heard he won the FIFA thing.
Yeah, and then he hands them the trophy and then stands there like he's on the team, and they're like, get out of the way. They're going to hold it up and jump around, and they might land on you. But Trump wants to be there because he thinks it's his win, right? Anyway, so he, and then he has this big brain fart about his uncle at the AI summit too. So this Philly AI thing, Trump, and I'll see if I can gather this up for you. But why don't you explain, Johnny Million, as you understand it, how
here's how I
wrong this whole
understand
thing
the
was.
Unabomber story. It was like it looked like he was like maybe in the cabinet room or something. It was a press thing. And
it was in Pennsylvania.
They asked him one question. Okay. They asked him a question. I don't even remember what the question was about because he did not answer it for long. He ended up, he did a tangent into MIT, where his uncle taught, which is true. And then he decided to say that his uncle taught Ted Kaczynski.
It's worse than that. Hang on. So let's break this down. For those that, and again, we did so much. Oh my God. Can you imagine if Obama with Trump the first time?
Seriously.
All
he has to do is put on a tan suit now and tell that story.
Yes. And this is can you imagine? And with all this, like, they've been covering for Biden, they were hiding the fact that he was ill, blah, blah, blah.
This is why all those news stories about like covering for Biden's health, like they were putting the carriage out in front of the horse.
Yes, to cover for this because they know it's coming. They knew
this is coming.
Yeah, his health is decaying. They are seeing this on the regular. They also know that unlike Biden, who is like, if he's tired, will stay out of the public eye because he flew back and forth to Europe like 7 times in a week.
Say the words, I'm tired.
Yes, he'll actually go take a nap and go, I've got important decisions to make later. Delegate properly, have good people in charge of stuff like an adult.
Concede that he needs rest and is a human.
Right. Trump, one of the biggest like freak out maggot posts that he did on Truth Social where he called them stupid or whatever, he did at 2:00 in the morning. Trump just woke up in a sweaty rage and rage-truthed this nonsense. Let's just break this down.
Although my uncle was at MIT, one of the great professors, 51 years, whatever. He was the longest serving professor in the history.
Nope. Was not the longest serving. He was there for a long time. Not the longest serving. Just start there.
He has
MIT,
to do that.
3 degrees.
Nope. Didn't have 3 degrees. 1 degree, electrical engineering. Let me state that again. 1 degree, electrical engineering. And here, now let's listen to Donald Trump describe the 3 degrees.
In nuclear, chemical, and math.
Nope. Not any of those at all.
He didn't even
Nope.
get any of them.
Nope. Didn't even say he didn't even go nuclear, electrical engineering, and math. Like you could have gone, well, he,
Now,
one
as
out
a
of.
practicing, Hal, as a practicing human, I've told plenty of stories where I don't have all the deets. And when I don't make up new ones and insert them in.
Right. Yes.
I'll say,
You don't
say
stack.
like, he might have had more than 1 degree. I don't even know. But I mean, he was good. He was smart. You know, like, that's how you do it. You don't like backpedal and go, well, how can I fill this in with horse whatever?
And Johnny, that's why you're not president, okay? Because
At
to
this
be
rate, I'll never make it.
to be president in the Kardashian era, this is the level of hornswoggle you have got to fling around. So
That's a smart man. Kaczynski was one of his students. Do you know?
okay, he's referring to Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Okay, he couldn't remember Ted. Also, there are a lot of Kaczynskis out there. As a matter of fact, Ted Kaczynski's brother's last name is Kaczynski too, and that guy turned his brother in. So kind of of the 2 Kaczynski brothers, one of them was a decent dude, but
Yeah, and, all the poor, and then
Kaczynski
poor
was-
Tim Kazurinsky in the middle of all of this.
yes, right.
There's very little difference between a madman and a genius.
Especially a stable genius. Is Trump going to call himself a stable madman soon?
But Kaczynski, I said, what kind of a student was he, Uncle John, Dr. John Trump? He said, what kind of a student? And then he said, seriously good. He said he'd go around correcting everybody, but it didn't work out too well for him.
Okay, so he asked his Uncle John about this, and he said, what kind of student was he? Seriously good. He'd go around correcting everybody. Okay, first of all, Dr. John Trump never taught Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski went to Harvard, and John Trump taught at MIT. There is no evidence ever that Kaczynski went to MIT for even summer classes to any of that kind of stuff. My dad studied at MIT for a period of time. Took engineering extension courses, with them and worked with them because of his work with the Kentucky government. So they sent him there for because they were building these old buildings. Anyways, he went there for a bit. One of my favorite shirts when I was a kid was my MIT shirt that he brought back to me that when I was little, and I wore it all over the place. So different schools, different states, different environments. Also, Ted Kaczynski was arrested in 1996. And they didn't know who the Unabomber was until they arrested him, till they tried this thing where he had written some letters and they went, hey, let's try and release this stuff. And his brother and his brother's wife is actually the one that spotted it, went, this sounds a lot like that crap Ted used to say when he would come by here all stinky, coming down from the mountain, where he lives like Pigpen. And they were like, yeah, these are direct quotes. This is bad, right? And so they turned him in 1996. John Trump died in 1985. So there is no way this conversation could have ever happened. Not in any way. Never, not ever. And he tells it
You can't twist it. There's no DeLorean that can make it happen.
No, not at all. And it's such a lie so as to be hilariously absurd. It's bananas. And I mentioned yesterday, I was like, all the crap they gave Biden about his corn pop story, which none of them have been able to prove wasn't true. And the idea that there was some dude in the 40s or 50s who called himself Corn Pop.
I used to eat me some corn pops. What's Biden's corn pop story?
He had this guy named Corn Pop who was a tough guy or something that when he was a young kid that, it's just this one of these things. He would bring him up as like a tough kid in the neighborhood. And I'm like, the idea that somebody in the 40s or 50s called themselves Corn Pop, Makes total sense, and thought it was a tough name.
Completely feasible.
Totally.
Worst era for nicknames ever.
Right. Yes. And you know, the
My
they
great
would jump.
grandfather's nickname was Squitchy.
Was what?
Squitchy. Squitchy. Squitchy.
Squitchy. I would bring
You
that
heard me.
back. Yeah.
It was a screen name in the early days of the internet. I was Squitchy.
Oh wow. Okay. I would have.
Yeah.
I would have thought of you as like Sugar Bear.
And he was
Yeah.
and he was also dean of the University of Virginia.
Well.
And he also taught Ted Kaczynski.
He did. Well, who hasn't at some point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's learned from all of us. The point being, though, is that like the corn pop story, they would drag Biden on all the time, and yet they could never prove it wasn't true. It just sounded like an old story, and he would say it a bunch, and they would just say it's a silly name, so it must be made up. Like somebody in the '80s would use that, but I absolutely, yeah, Lenny and Squiggy, great point. That somebody having a name like that in the 40s or 50s made total sense, right? But they would fast forward it to the 80s or 90s, and it sounded ridiculous that anybody would call them. Well, maybe the 90s. I don't know. In the 90s, I think somebody might call themselves corn pop to be like kind of retro and ironic. But the point being is that they would use this as like he's losing his mind, and this is okay. And yet they've never been able to disprove it. This is materially impossible. It's Looney Tunes. And he tells this...
That a person could possibly name corn pop... Oh,
no, the other one.
Yeah,
the Ted Kaczynski being taught by John Trump, and then Trump having a conversation with the ghost of his uncle, because apparently this conversation had to happen sometime in the late 90s. By the way, for the record, when Trump was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, this would be somewhere between when Ted Kaczynski was discovered in 1996 and arrested, and in 2002 or 2003 when Trump said that Jeffrey Epstein was a fun guy to be around and likes girls, beautiful women on the younger side. So, somewhere in that window of time, Donald Trump had a conversation with the ghost of his dead uncle. And maggots, here's my question. If you don't like the fact that he says nothing to see here, Epstein killed himself, there's nothing, that's it. There's no other people. He wasn't bribing or blackmailing anybody. He wasn't extorting people using compromat. He hadn't gathered video of powerful people. All that's nonsense. According to Donald Trump and everybody that he's put in power, Bongholio, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, all of them agree with Donald Trump. Nothing to see here. The guy killed himself, never had any compromise on anybody. There is no extra evidence. Case closed, right? That you got to be fine with all that. And you have to be fine with Donald Trump having conversations with the ghost of his dead uncle while his cankles explode at a soccer game where he thinks he was a part of the team. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat
In the chat, somebody named Cadillac Rivers said, they call me tater salad.
Action replays in magnified fortune. Mm-hmm. Free health care for illegal... look.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
And Diane had a friend named Cheddar in high school.
Who?
Diane in the chat.
Oh,
we knew
okay.
a kid named Shag.
Yeah, we did.
And he ended up being like amazing in visual effects. He worked on Battlestar Galactica, and he's probably still cranking away.
That's what happens, It takes that kind of like the kids that go off into the, I had my sketchy moments in high school.
Yeah, I like Shag.
Yeah, he was the one who got me into that fight. I think it was in a Burger King in Evanston or wherever we were.
Oh.
Where he's like picking
60
fights with people,
seconds.
and then he was like, "Sick 'em, Hal." We ended up getting into a fist fight in this Burger King.
Was that with Jerome?
My cousin?
No.
Oh yes.
Last name.
I don't remember if he was there.
Or was that in front of the 7-Eleven?
No, that was in front of the 7-Eleven. Yeah, that was when the cop came over and yeah.
Yeah. You're fat
Boy.
and you don't have any friends.
Yeah.
People want to know what you're drinking, Hal.
Oh, kombucha. Pomegranate blueberry kombucha.
I don't know if I've ever tried it. I know a lot of people in recovery drink it, and they come under fire because it's fermented.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
That's the Hal Sparks radio
That's not
program.
enough. Yeah.
Worldwide.
So, in a phrase that's uncomfortable around the world of Jeffrey Epstein, the phrase "strange bedfellows" has been popping up a lot lately because you got Thomas Massey from Kentucky, who is a stalwart against the big BS bill, and also wants the release of the Epstein files. And he is partnered with Ro Khanna to make that happen. There's a vote coming up, I believe, Wednesday, that is going to be a put up or shut up vote. All the Democrats are expected to vote for it. There are some crossover Republicans that have already signed on with this, including, I believe, even the Speaker, because they don't feel like they cannot at least try to do this, whether they'll hope that somebody let's say they ask for it and then Pam Bondi says, oops, we can't, or, oh, I don't know where it is. That's probably where they feel like the fallbacks can come because they need the political cover. But Ron Wyden, who's been is the top Democrat on the Finance Committee, has been pointing out that after Epstein's arrest and before his death, he started shuffling cash around like crazy, trying to hide it. And that 4 banks had a bunch of like SARS reports, suspicious activity reports. I guess they wouldn't be SARS reports, would they? A bunch of SARS that they were going to put out.
Isn't that the thing that shut down Toronto for a while?
No, but it's why Chips Patrol was stupid. Yeah, California Highway Patrol. So, yeah, it's like ATM
number.
machine. Right. Yeah.
ATM machine. Damn it,
Yeah,
I said
right.
it wrong.
That's all right. So, apparently, 4 banks waited until he was arrested to flag $1.5 billion with a B dollars in financial transactions, and Wyden cannot release them for legal reasons, but he wants them released, so he's asking that they be released. Yeah, asking the DOJ to make a special ruling on this. In particular, the filings by 4 big banks flagged more than $1.5 billion in transactions, including thousands of wire transfers for the purchase and sale of artwork for rich friends, fees paid by Mr. Epstein to Mr. Epstein by wealthy individuals, and payments to numerous women, the senator's office found. The filings came after Epstein was arrested in 2019 on federal sex trafficking charges. So to be clear, these monetary exchanges, these payments, all this stuff, these large chunks of money going back and forth, were flagged by the banks as suspicious, but not filed for years in some cases until he was arrested. Then when he was arrested, they're like, oh, dang, were these in your desk this whole time? Right. Large money transfers to individuals, foreign countries, or obscure companies are the kind of things banks are supposed to be examining as potentially suspicious. Some of the Epstein money transfers disclosed in a report from J.P. Morgan Chase involved accounts at 2 Russian banks. I mean, it's so on the nose. Involved at 2 Russian banks
I mean,
before
how
those
this could easily
institutions.
happen to either of us.
Yes, of course. Before those institutions were subject to U.S. sanctions. A few transactions red flagged were for as much as $100 million. Mr. Wyden said his investigation of Mr. Epstein's finances have taken on new urgency now that the Trump administration has was balking at releasing any information seized by the FBI from Epstein's homes or information collected from the nation's banks. Like many Republicans on the far right, Mr. Wyden and a growing number of Democrats believe there are more details about Mr. Epstein than the federal government needs to reveal. We felt from the beginning that this was a follow the money case, Mr. Wyden said in an interview. This horrific sex trafficking operation cost Epstein a lot of money, and he had to get that money from somewhere. Now, there's a lot of talk on the right with where does money come from? Right? Where did he get all this money? That's what I want to know. Where did he get this money from? Because they've been listening to Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson is basically fueling the idea that that Mossad was paying him, that the CIA, that it was American tax dollars. This is what they want people to believe, that American tax dollars were backing this operation that he was a part of. The problem with that is that, especially if Ron Wyden has his way, you will see exactly where that money came from. And one of the big players in all this was this guy, Leon Black, who was a multi-billionaire. And he, let's see, he credited Jeffrey Epstein with saving him $2 billion in taxes, which just sounds like something Donald Trump would be looking for from a guy. But Leon Black had to step down from his private equity firm specifically because of his relation to Jeffrey Epstein. And Elysium Management. Yeah, he recently opened a branch in Abu Dhabi. He's basically moving around in the Middle East, which is where everybody goes after this. He went. I guess people went public with his connection to Epstein at or about the time Trump, when had Epstein arrested, and the dude went poof. We don't know if he died in jail or paid for his own escape, or I'm reserving judgment, unlike the DOJ at this point. But the big thing about Leon Black was he paid Jeffrey Epstein somewhere in the order of $150 million for his services after his conviction for a sex offense in Florida. Some people, at or about the time that he was arrested, bailed, right? That was one of the things. So they jumped ship. They were like, I don't even know the guy. Donald Trump was literally partying with him up till about 2 months before he got arrested. And may have even been one of the people that turned him in, allegedly. That Trump himself, because of their falling out over this real estate deal, and how angry Trump was that Epstein cost him $10 million that he shouldn't have paid for this piece of property that he already had a buyer for, that he was going to sell to this Russian dude who was going to bulldoze the place. If you'll recall that $90 million property, Maddow back in the day did a great report on that piece of property. Okay. That piece of property is the reason Trump and Epstein stopped being friends for a short while. Yeah. And there was an argument that Trump turned him in, called the cops on him because he was mad, and then tipped Epstein off that they were up to him. Right? Yes. And then tipped Epstein off because he regretted it or wanted to manipulate him and not let it be known that it was him. Because if people found out around him that a bunch of other stuff came out, all the other billionaires that operated with Epstein might be angry that Trump was the one that got them in trouble. So he walks it back and pretends like, hey, dude, by the way, they're coming. You better scrub your house. Right? That's the theory, is that Trump not only turned him in, but then tipped him off so that he could, have it both ways. Which, I mean, the idea that Trump would manipulate a situation like that would not surprise anybody. But Leon Black paid him $150 million after that conviction, after he was given the sweetheart deal, after he had gone to jail, after he had to register as a sex offender, which, by the way, he didn't lose his passport. He could travel anywhere he wants. And because that only applies, I mean, I don't know how stringent even the rule was about his registering, like he would if he landed it. And here's the thing. He had other people go out. He could afford to have people recruit and snatch women from Eastern Europe, young girls from Eastern Europe, and fly them in for him to have sex with and the like. So the idea that he couldn't be 500 yards from a school didn't matter because Ghislaine Maxwell sure could. Any of the girls that he hired to go find him other girls, they sure could. They weren't under any limitation. And there was no, there was no evidence that he trolled schoolyards like some dude on To Catch a Predator ever anyways. He didn't have to. He was rich. So the idea that you even registering as a sex offender has any impact on someone with that kind of wealth and resource is an absurdity. There has to be, if you're rich and you have a lot of resources, there's got to be a different level of punishment because of the different level of threat you pose to the community.
Right.
Right? In my theory. Yes. So, anyways, Leon, again, the dude got $150 million from him. He was living free and clear in a $7 million, in an increasingly expensive apartment or house in Manhattan that's now worth $70 million, right? And at this point, the question is, somebody was just like, Hal, I hope you don't end up like Colbert. Well, Colbert's going to land on his feet. He's a good man, and there was a lawsuit filed this week by the writers of The Late Show, alleging that the cancellation of the show was effectively a bribe by the owners of the network.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself could keep the show on the air for a period of time until it is settled.
The lawsuit?
Yeah. Yeah, in theory. We're at the end of the hour. Phil Ittner will be joining us after the break. Like, subscribe on all the stations. Go to infotainmentwars.com and subscribe if you would. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. I think we can actually get there. It's going to be good. Considering the reach I have, you'd think I'd have more subscribers, but I am on every network that you could possibly be on. But
it's spread out.
Give it a shot. It is. We'll be back right after this. Yeah, that he had money pouring in the hundreds of millions. Yeah. White House has files on $1.5 billion in Epstein money trail, according to Wyden. 4,725 wire transfers, adding up to $1.5 billion. 4,725. That's a very specific number.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Let's see if I can. Hold on one second. Talk amongst yourself. We're waiting for Phil to pop in here. Hopefully he's all good. He might be exhausted. You might want to, Devin. You might want to watch for the dump button because he is literally getting bombed every night. Not drinking, they're bombing him every night, and so he's not been sleeping a bunch lately.
Do those have to be mutually exclusive?
Say again, sorry?
I said, do those have to be mutually exclusive?
No. I mean, you could
Being bombed and getting bombed.
Right. He could be trying to get some sleep. There he is. Okay, excellent. Give it go. And then I'm going to here 1 second. And I'll go back to here. Yeah. There he goes. I'll put him in here on the right. There we go. And then I believe we can go to two guests, and this should. Hey, there we go. I've got to move Johnny over again. I forgot. It's always the thing.
Hey, Phil. Good to see you.
Hey.
I don't know why, but I always get. There we go. There we go. I'll stretch this out and look good. I'm not going to ask you how you are, and I'm not going to ask you if you got any sleep. I'm just going to say I hope you are okay, and I hope you did.
The audio, something's wrong with the audio.
Oh, huh. Do you want to sign back in? Let's see.
Can you hear me better than Hal?
I don't think so. I think it's on his end. Try to do this. Could you hear this? No, I missed it. Okay, sorry.
I do. I heard that.
Uh-huh. Okay, here we go.
Nice.
We'll try and get it going there. And then add right. See if that's a little better. Check, check.
That's better.
There we go. Okay.
Yay.
You sound good.
Okay.
Yep. Sounds all right. Welcome. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yep. Oops, I'm going to have to move him around. Hold on. I'll do it on my end.
Coming back in 15.
Thank you.
I won't.
Okay.
There we go. Mm-hmm. Hold on. Let's see. There we go. I'll do this.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome to the show. Philip Ittner, live from Kyiv, host of On the Edge. New episodes every Sunday. I think you have a new one out. If you've been able to actually work in, in the midst of all the bombing that's been going on, there is something tied to the Epstein stuff that came up that just in the last little bit because of what Ron Wyden filed and what we had talked about in the last block of the first hour, which is that, this is the quote from Wyden. Epstein had to pay for all his sex trafficking somehow. Further evidence shows he used Russian banks to process hundreds of millions in payments. Again, this is info in the possession of the Trump administration, but they're refusing to investigate.
Yeah. No one should be shocked by that.
No, not at all. But I do think it might come as a surprise to some folks that there is that, and this might be why Tucker Carlson and others are playing up this kind of Mossad idea around Jeffrey Epstein, even though their biggest evidence that he was a Mossad agent was that Ghislaine Maxwell's father was apparently an asset for Mossad because he was a rich, dude with Israeli citizen, dual citizenship or whatever, which is not like British and I think Israeli citizenship. Which is not evidence. It's obviously that, there's a lot of connective tissue in these folks. Sure. But, and would it come as a surprise that he was an asset? No. Of other people? Perhaps not. Maybe they tried to make him one and failed, or he was for a short time, and then they told him to go pound sand. That happens with CIs all the time, confidential informants. But the point is that I think they're pushing this because the evidence points to the fact that he was shuffling money through the same sketchy thing. His accounts, there are some 4,725, I believe that is the number, sketchy, suspicious activity reports that banks had failed to file until he got arrested. They had been sitting on them, 4,725 of them. And a lot of them, some of them went through $100 million through Russian banks. Some of them went through Deutsche Bank, a lot of them. And Deutsche Bank was also Trump's lender of choice for his laundered Russian money. So, again, is there a chance that Russia's sort of failure to take Ukraine in 6 days and their weakening economic system and the weakening of Putin by his obvious, if not mental, strategic decline, he's making a lot of bad choices, that these things are starting to come out and fall apart, like the protection racket around this information, the threats that used to keep things hidden are now wavering?
Well, it's complicated because, Mossad and the Russians have a very long history, and we don't acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since there was a movement at the tail end of the Soviet Union when they started letting Russian Jews, leave the USSR and go to Israel. And this was a movement called the Refuseniks. You're refusing Russia, or the USSR. You're going to Israel. So this has been happening for a very long time, where Russian influence, and your average Russian Jew did not leave the Soviet Union. These were guys who had power. They were connected to the oligarchy. They were connected to the communist power structure. And that's why they were allowed to leave and go to Israel. So, I mean, I remember going to Israel in the 90s and the early aughts and being shocked by the fact that, and I'd been to Israel before, but being shocked by the fact that you weren't just hearing Brooklyn Jews speaking English on the streets of Jerusalem. You were starting to hear Russians. And so there is this long-standing history with a powerful Jewish elite that left the Soviet Union and started to become part and parcel of the power structure within Israel. So they play both sides. I mean, there's this whole perception that Israel and America are these kind of this tight union and like an intelligence sharing between the CIA and the Mossad. Well, actually, in addition to that, at the same time, there are a lot of Russian intelligence organs who are actually also concurrently operating with Mossad and Israeli intelligence. So it is entirely possible that not only Maxwell, but Epstein had connections to Russian intelligence and security apparatus through or directly to, but possibly through Mossad. So if Moscow wanted to influence Israel, or if
or
Moscow
U.S. policy,
wanted to, if yeah,
you jumped ahead of you.
You jumped ahead of me there.
Yeah.
If Moscow wanted to influence American intelligence and security, they could do it by the conduit of Mossad. And so it's entirely possible. We don't know, but it's entirely possible that Epstein and Maxwell and a variety of other actors had their connections to the Kremlin that they kind of parlayed through Mossad. So none of us should be shocked by this.
Yeah, they also did the PLO. So it's interesting that you've got this. This is very Russian in that regard. It should be a lesson. It should be a lesson to everybody about how they don't care about the sides in an argument. They care about the conflict itself. That Donald Trump was never an agent for the whatever Russia wanted. He was simply something to make the system fall apart. He's a chaos agent, and so what they want is division. And so all they need to do is put the most divisive person they can find, in a position of power and wind him up and let him go. And so they kind of knew this. But in the situation with, they have Mossad contacts on the one hand, and largely because the Israelis had a lot of, if you're trying to sneak people out, Jews that are being, tortured or maligned or in danger out of Russia, out of the USSR at one point, Mossad is definitely going to do what they can. They're going to make strange bedfellows. They're going to make relationships so that they can sneak people out. Some people who might be on the team and off the team, but are technically in the KGB. Like, that's the kind of ugly stuff you have to do when you smuggle people out. Look at the Underground Railroad during slavery in the South when the North was free. I'm sure there were people that were giving money to people they knew were awful to look the other way. people that they would never trust and knew were pro-slavery and all this stuff, but wanted the money more. So they paid this awful person to look the other way as they snuck people out to save lives and that kind of stuff. So that happens all the time. In the meantime, though, Russia starts the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, was effectively a construct of the KGB for all practical purposes. They named it as the head of the Arab Liberation Movement, not Palestinian liberation, Arab liberation, which was meant to be this
Hezbollah.
Yes,
Hezbollah in Beirut in Lebanon. I mean, there was a direct funnel from Moscow to Syria to Hezbollah in Lebanon. This is nothing new.
Yeah, and there's like I believe it's called the Matrokin Archive, which was this tranche of documents that was released that pointed to the fact that they were basically picking the leadership of the PLO and picking the leadership of other Palestinian liberation groups. Specifically, by the way, not because they give a crap about the Palestinians, but so that they could turn this into a bloodbath, ratchet up the fighting. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we found that, that Yahweh Sinwar and the Likud, far right people in the Knesset were getting money from the same people. In this case, from the same Russian handlers. It would be no shock at all, because chaos and violence is the point. Because to them, the lesson from Vietnam was get them distracted in this area. We don't have to care about the turnout. As a matter of fact, if it's in an area we care less about, like Vietnam, letting it roll will benefit us, because they will, burn themselves down doing it. They didn't obviously learn that lesson around Afghanistan themselves. But yeah. But
everything's binary. Everything's binary. If it's going to hurt America or the British, because that's really the enemy that Moscow perceives for itself. If it's going to harm America or American interests, or also British or British interests, they don't care. They don't. If it hurts. Because everything is a null set equation for them. If it's good, if it's bad for them, meaning America or again the British, primarily,
then
it's good for us.
Yeah. If they're bleeding, it's good. And that's that's the attitude. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. More with Philip Ittner, who's live in Kyiv right now, as live as he possibly can be, considering that the bombing is keeping him up at night. And I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate him being here with us. Just the fact that you're able to be here is an amazing thing, and we appreciate it greatly. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. So,
you ever hear the story? You ever hear? I got to tell you this. You ever hear the story of the hostage taking from the Russian embassy, the Soviet embassy in Beirut?
No, I don't think so.
It's a bit apocryphal, but there's a story that goes around where of course, because Americans had hostages, American hostages happen quite often. They took a Soviet citizen, as the story goes, like a deputy ambassador or something like that, or his family or something like that. And the Soviets said to Hezbollah, "Kill him. Go ahead, kill him." We don't care.
Right.
And Hezbollah did, and then the Soviets, the Russians, basically went and found. They through their intelligence gathering found every family member and everything, and they slaughtered everybody.
Yeah.
Go ahead, pick another house.
Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
There is so much to cover, not the least of which is that and this is sort of semi-breaking news in this regard, but the U.S. House of Representatives approved continuation of military aid to Ukraine. The bill was sent to the Senate. It will be approved in the Senate. Sorry, if it's got, believe me, if it's got votes in the House, it's got votes in the Senate, and it will be signed into law. The 353 congressmen voted in favor, 76 against. HR 4016 will advance in the Senate. It's going to go to the floor because the senators, by and large, are for this. The American people, 70% support continuing to support Ukraine against Russia. The real change has come from Trump in the last little bit, and it may be because this is the only area where he can wag the dog and get away with it is in Ukraine. The problem, I think, and we've seen this sort of wag the dog scenario before, that the way you hide a scandal, George H.W. Bush allegedly having an affair that was about to come out, and that's why the Iraq War, the first one. The idea that Kosovo was, Clinton covering for himself, but be it Whitewater or the Lewinsky affair, those kind of things, like even the movie Wag the Dog being about that period and in understanding what that phrase was. But in the case of Trump, the problem he has is that back then, you used to be able to start a war, and the Republicans, in their jingoistic fervor, pre-Iraq war, would jump right in behind you. We got to support the president. This is war. After the strikes in Iran, it is abundantly clear that is not something that he can count on. And so what do you do when you can't wag the dog when you're being attacked about this Epstein stuff? Where do you go? And one of the things is that you hide behind, pushing back on Russia, pushing back on, seeming reasonable in some area, because people like me, like you, will go, finally, but it's not because, and we don't have to care if he really cares. We just want it done. So, but it very well, the reasoning behind it could be just to cover for himself. But
absolutely.
He will sign it. He will sign it into law.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's great. Thanks. I've had enough sleepless nights. I'll be happy to get the air defense no matter what. But yeah, I mean, it's 100%. I mean, he's already ticked off his base.
Yeah.
Right. So he's already gone past. And so now if he wants to support Ukraine, he can get the Reaganite Republicans on side. He can get that kind of more traditional Republicans on side because they do, still have that kind of mentality of like, let's push back against the Russian Empire. And he's already burned part of his base with Epstein, and they're all, what do you call them, fools and stupid and fools. So, if his base gets its back up about supporting Ukraine in its fight against Russia, which they perceive as the portent to the Third World War, then so be it. For him. The Epstein thing is at play in Ukraine, and American support for Ukraine and pushback against Russia. How it all plays out, we'll see.
Right.
We definitely want the air defense. We're desperate for it. So, great. But, longer term, I don't know. I mean, I still have concerns about his transactional nature and kind of like where he plays with Putin. We'll see, but in the immediate term, if Epstein and the controversy domestically in the United States results in us getting air defense, okay, sure, take it. We'll take it.
Exactly. I mean, again, I don't think if you're waiting around for him to for his heart to outrun his brain, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no sincerity in this.
Yes. So at some point, you just have to count on it as for what it's worth materially. Meanwhile, the EU is going to buy stuff from the United States that do not have to be part of the ongoing conversation between the U.S. and Ukraine. If this bill passes, which it looks like it will, fairly right, that Trump will probably sign it into law without much fanfare, kind of under, it won't be one of these things where he holds it up like, a toddler with their diaper, So, but he will sign it, and that will start stuff, either continue stuff going through or increase it direct to Ukraine. Meanwhile, he's already set up this back channel through NATO, and all they have to do is tell him they're raising their spending by buying this stuff and giving it to Ukraine, and then they could lease it to Ukraine themselves and then get paid back for the money that they spent doing it. So, I feel like...
Yeah, I mean, not to mention the fact that the Europeans have been much more open to the idea of liquidating Russian assets and oligarch assets, and then taking that money and buying from America. So, I mean, there's a pathway to this, and it could work. I mean, and he doesn't care as long as the coffers are getting filled. If the Europeans start to liquidate Russian oligarch money and friends of Putin kind of money, or the Siloviki, the kind of close the close system around Putin, if they start liquidating that money and then sending it to Washington to buy weapon systems, okay, again, another instance of like his transactionalism and his kind of like short-term, immediate, like what's in it for me mentality. If that provides us with Bradleys and Patriots and HIMARS, okay, all right, let's do it that way. And the Europeans will do that.
Yes.
They don't have a problem. The Europeans are very smart about this.
Yes, because they're going to have to be, and they recognize that the vast majority of the vast majority of the American people support this and supporting Ukraine. And so if the idea is that you have to Macron handshake Trump to get him on board with this, or he has to do it just to cover his butt in the Epstein thing, nobody cares as long as it gets done, because real lives are at risk. And this is, I think, hold on, let me see if I can find this on here.
And the entire power structure in Europe. I mean, the Europeans are waking up to that. That is one thing that is, I think, significant and worth mentioning, is that with Washington under Trump becoming this kind of like isolationist kind of transactional entity, the Europeans have woken up to the fact that like, we got to do this for ourselves, because the power balance in the continent, or on the continent, will significantly change if Russia is allowed to win this war. So, they're like, they are also very much at the point in this second administration of like, whatever we got to do to appease this man-child, to get weapons to Ukraine, let's do it.
Yeah. So I'm going to see if I can play this, if the volume of it may be questionable because of the nature of, here we go, beg your pardon. This is Trump speaking to reporters outside the Oval, or outside the...
Mr. Putin, give the additional days to prosecute this war against Ukraine.
Oh, I don't think 50 days is very long, and it could be sooner than that. I don't think 50 days is very long.
Mr. President,
you should have asked that same question to Biden.
That was again, I don't know why he thinks that's a question you should ask to Biden, whatever that's supposed to mean. I think he's just he's just adding that as an addendum onto everything. Like, you shouldn't be bugging me about this war. This is, this was Biden's fault that I have to deal with this. It's kind of left over from his Obama is to blame for the great economy I have to ruin.
Actually, 50 days isn't great either. 50 days is a lot of people.
It's a long time.
Are going to die.
Yes. Yeah. So this was the other thing he said as well. They're translating Trump to Russian in that clip. But it was where he was saying, we're going to send them Patriots, and we're going to send them, because we have to send them that stuff because, Putin's, not behaving. He's gone crazy. That whole thing, like that bit. The reality is I feel like, and you can, I guess we can all have our opinion on this, but the idea is that it seems like Putin promised Trump he would turn this fight off like a switch when he came into office. Like, I got this, buddy. And as soon as you come in, you'll look like a hero. I'll grab the land, and then you can help me undermine it politically for the rest of the term, and then I'll attack again after you leave. I'll give you this big win, and then we can pause all this. And then he did, he won and he didn't do it. And he's still not doing it. And he's doubling down, and it's embarrassing. And civilians are getting killed. And Trump sees this stuff, and I don't know that he cares about civilian deaths in this regard. He certainly doesn't give a crap about them in Gaza. So, but he does, I think, have an issue with how it makes him look, right? He has no shame, but he can be embarrassed. And I think he finds it embarrassing that Putin is hanging him out to dry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think so too. And look, this is something we've talked about for nearly 3 years now, is that the problem, over 3 years now, the problem that the West has, and America in particular, and Trump even more so in particular because of his ego and his need to market himself properly, is that we don't have I'm repeating myself.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice when it comes to the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are going to defend themselves. They're going to keep fighting. And they're going, and so there's going to be a body count, and terrible things are going to happen. And the Russians are going to kill Ukrainians, and they'll be on the front pages of Western papers from Warsaw to Los Angeles. And so can you, as an American leader, sit there and let that happen and basically be like, yeah, man, nothing we can do? That's not going to be acceptable to a lot of people in the West, and Americans in particular, who don't like seeing, dead Ukrainian babies.
Right.
So he's got to do something.
That's right. We'll take a break, and then I want to read a statement from Marjorie Taylor Greene because I'm enjoying the fact. I know. Yes, I must, because there is something extraordinary about it. And that thing that is extraordinary is the fact that she's over Trump in these things, because he's supporting Ukraine. He's not releasing the Epstein files. He's not doing all these things. And if Marjorie Taylor Greene is mad, you know things are getting better, especially when it comes to the war in Ukraine. If she's upset about it, that means fewer people are going to die. And that's upsetting to her somehow. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. So, and this is a big deal. Like, I don't think people recognize just how enormous the sort of response is in this circumstance, and whoops, I gotta go back. There we go. It's kind of, can I copy this and just put it in a document, because there's so much of this crap.
No, and it's going to get worse, I think. Because of so many in the GOP are actually compromised by Moscow or their fellow travelers. So,
right,
yeah.
I gotta say, like, hold on,
yeah. It's gonna get interesting.
Whoops.
Not that it hasn't been, but
right.
Yeah.
There you go. And then I'm gonna
no new wars and all that.
Right.
Right.
Well, and the thing is, they don't actually. I wish they actually cared. I don't believe it. I think I think it's nonsense.
It would be nice if they were principled.
But I don't care. I don't need them to be principled if it gets the results we need. Especially in this circumstance. I mean, it just.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's Heck of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew?
That was a heck of a thing. Here we go. I think this will fit. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. This is her statement. I had to copy and paste it and put it in a. This woman. Oh yeah, it's terrible. But like I said, if she's miserable, it's a good sign. Alucia says, "Love you, Phil." Phil, do you think it'll be a mask-off moment when the GOP goes to that point? I think of like having to vote on this. Is that what they mean? I'll bring up questions and I'll have Johnny, gather questions in this next little bit after I read this little piece. We'll start with the questions, chat room. So send them to Johnny.
Well, generally, I mean, in a general answer to that, I think that there are people in the Senate, Republicans.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. So, if it's a day where Marjorie Taylor Greene is upset, things might be improving. I'm not saying they've improved yet, but the more angry she gets about stuff, the more things aren't going her way, the fewer people I think will die unnecessarily in Ukraine on a lot of fronts. Now, the funny thing is on the Epstein stuff, I hope she gets everything she wants with it, because I think every normal person has been wanting these files to come out for a very long time, and none of us are attached to anybody who might be caught up in them, because if people we previously liked have to go down, then that's not about us, that's about them. If people are engaged in this kind of stuff and you didn't know about it and you find out, bye-bye. It's not hard. Okay, so here's Marjorie Taylor Greene's most recent long-form post. She also posted it like a Instagram type thing where she went to Chick-fil-A. But that's not part of the politics of the day. I spent millions of my own money, and by the way, some of the PPE that she got, or the PPP loans that she got, and traveled the entire country, that's in all caps, I don't know why, campaigning for President Trump and his MAGA agenda and his promises. And Trump's MAGA agenda includes these key promises: no more foreign wars, no more regime change, world peace. There was a whole peace through strength thing, so I don't know how whatever, but okay. And this is what the people voted for. Only 6 months in, and we are back into foreign wars, regime change, and World War III. It feels like a complete bait and switch to please the neocons, warmongers, military-industrial complex contracts, and neocon TV personalities that MAGA hates and who were never Trumpers. After the bombs were dropped and we were told complete success and Iran's nuclear capabilities were totally wiped out, then it quickly turned into Iran's nuclear facilities were partially damaged, and now it's we don't know where their enriched uranium is. Let me be very clear. My children are 22, 25, and 27. I will literally fight anyone for their future. I don't know quite what that means.
What?
Literally fight anyone for their future. Whatever. Yeah. She goes, and their future and their entire generation's future must be free of America-last foreign wars that provoke terrorist attacks on our homeland, military drafts, and all caps, nuclear war. She's very much against a nuclear war breaking out. Finally, a principled stance from Marge. I am fighting, in all caps, for them to have a future when they can afford to buy a home, afford insurance, invest for retirement, enjoy life, retain their God-given freedoms, and afford to raise a family under the Christian faith, not be in debt, safety, and security, and this is all caps, and not have our own taxpayer-funded government destroy it all. I feel like she's trying to tell us she should have voted Democrat in the last election, because, okay. Contrary to brainwashed Democrat boomers think and protest about, I think she left out the word what. Trump is not a king, MAGA is not a cult, and I can and do have my own opinion. Now, by and large, probably blather from Marge. But it is pivotal.
1 out of 3 ain't bad.
Right. It is pivotal that she is turning on the administration on a couple of things. The main one being is that she's definitely getting word that that bill passed the House that approves Ukrainian aid. She's I'm sure she voted against it, but it passed anyways. And then that bill is going to go to the Senate where she's aware that it's going to pass. and that the president's going to sign it into law. That's what that post is about. That's 100% what that post is about, is that it passed. She watched it pass this week. Yeah, I guess, what was it? Last night, they voted on it, and it went out. By the way, probably after 6 o'clock, one of those situations where they, vote late and hope it goes away. But still, like, if she's upset about the state of affairs around Ukraine, that's good for Ukraine.
Yeah.
Now,
and it's a twofer, because you still have the Reaganite, anti-Russian Empire guys, and now you're having the MAGA no new wars guys conjointly being like, this is not the right way to go. We should be supporting Ukraine, and it's just, his
driving them crazy.
His support is really taking blow after blow after blow. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure we got questions from our chat room for you, Phil. So let's get into them. Johnny's been farming them this whole time. So what do you got, Johnny?
First one's from Connie Kelly. Ask Philip about the fun new game, Army of Drones, and the bonus. I think it's brilliant. I wish I could play. Are you familiar with that, Phil?
No. The whole drone warfare thing is,
Yeah.
Still, we've got drones now being implemented here in Kiev as a anti-air defense, so air defense system. No, I'm not a game of drones. It sounds. I'm guessing that's probably some sort of Ukrainian kind of.
So Mark Hamill is a part of this thing. I'll show you. Mark Hamill. Beg your pardon. Yeah, there we go. Mark Hamill is part of this thing on the Ukraine thing. These are the drones you're looking for. Join Mark Hamill in the army of drones, and you can donate money to get these. I think there's a game. It's a joint project of the General Staff, the Armed Forces, the State Special Communication Service, and the Ministry of Digital Transformation. Includes a regular drone procurement and the request for military as well as pilot training courses. Over 1,400 drones have been purchased in 3 months of the project. These are those. So United 24 is posting about that. But our good friend Mark Hamill, who is awesome, is a part of that. So what do you get?
It's just Ukraine being Ukraine, and just outsmarting the Russians on every front. So
and they are trying to build this army of drones for. And by the way, the U.S. is now buying drones from Ukraine and the systems around them. So
Well, not only that. But the United States, the DoD, put out their annual kind of tactical guideline. This is how we're going to fight the next war, kind of thing. And Ukrainians have been looking at it and going, "Oh no, no, drones don't work like that." There's this whole thing about if you've got a squadron of armored vehicles and they are advancing on a point and they get incoming a swarm, a drone swarm, that they're supposed to kind of move formation into kind of a box formation and then fire on these incoming drones. But what they don't understand is these things come in really quick. And you don't have time to be maneuvering into box formation. The Ukrainians are looking at this and going, "You guys don't know what this is like." And so there is the smarter people in American military and in security and all the rest of it.
Right.
They're looking at this and going, "We need to partner with the Ukrainians because they know better than any of us what this is actually like." But there's this old guard also, the higher echelon generals and, 3 stars and 4 stars, who are kind of like, "Oh, we'll do this kind of in an old traditional combat way. And that's just not going to work. And the Ukrainians are saying to the Americans, look, as part of a cooperation agreement, we are happy to come and train your people.
Yep.
And advise you on how to conduct modern drone warfare. And as of right now, we're not really taking advantage of that. And that might be part of the whole relationship that's being built.
It could also be the 50-day thing, like where Trump's just afraid to pull the trigger on that 50-day during that 50-day window. Because once that starts, once we have a military cooperation with them, and they've got, there's a certain level of like security that they have to, clearance stuff that they will get that has to be approved. There's a, that's a process. That's Pete Hegseth having to deal with Ukrainians in his office. Yeah. That's a big deal, right?
Yep.
So, anyways, Johnny, what do we got? Like, I think we got time for another one before we get a quick one.
Yeah, I've got one. This is from Tom Crowett. For Phil, are the F-16s still mainly used for defense?
Yes, but there have been instances where they've gone up to the front line, and they've been and that's where actually some of the F-16s have been lost, is approaching onto the front line to provide early anti-air defense, but also to guard and protect frontline ground troops. But that's where Ukrainians have lost some of their F-16s, primarily where they've lost their F-16s. So there is some offensive capability that's being used with the F-16, but it comes at a high risk. And so mostly, it's my understanding that most of them are still being used in a defensive capability.
Yeah. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. And, of course, On the Edge is Philip's show. They have a new episode every Sunday. Subscribe on his YouTube channel, and we'll be back right after this. This is okay. Look at it. Yeah. Looking up one more thing, and then it's interesting to me. Like
I love the whole thing about Marge. I love the fact that she's angry about it.
Yeah. Like, again, there are certain people. It's their misery is a great barometer of how like messed up stuff is, or how great it's whether it's turning or not. And in her particular case, like if she's mad, things are making a turn for the better.
Well, she's been so idiotically anti-Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And kind of pro-Russian.
Right.
So if she is upset about U.S. aid and support for Ukraine, then fantastic.
Well, that's how that bill passed. And really, I got to say, like, I've only seen it posted on a couple of places. I guess the people who voted on it, posted the vote, whatever. This morning, the House overwhelmingly voted to continue providing military support to Ukraine. A vote 353 to 76. Think about that. And in today's like Congress, that's as close to bipartisan as you could possibly get. That is all the Democrats and a whole bunch of Republicans.
Yep.
Johnny,
yep.
Are you making that noise?
No, that sounded amazing.
Yeah. And by the way, maggots don't like it. Like, they're all freaking out. This isn't what I voted for. Like, well, guess what, dummy? You don't own the whole country. You're about those
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo! I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together. Whether the weather is cloudy or stormy, I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay!
Yay!
Hooray!
So I do think, as we were kind of pointing out during the break when we were talking, the House voted yesterday overwhelmingly to continue providing military support to Ukraine, 353 to 76. In the current political climate and the allegations that we have never been more divided on stuff, and that Ukraine has somehow become this like football politically, that is a stunning number. On top of that, Marjorie Taylor Greene is miserable because not only is Donald Trump advised and ordered the Pentagon to continue, by the way, their legally mandated requirement to continue to send arms to Ukraine, because if you'll notice in this bill, it says to continue providing military support, meaning it technically never stopped. We are still on a CR from under Biden. There is still funding for the next cycle on a yearly basis to continue until the war is over, to continue supplying some level of support, monetarily and otherwise. And so they were unable to stop it effectively. This bill was one of the reasons why Marjorie Taylor Greene is mad. Well, guess what, kids? It's because she put up an amendment and they carried it. Whoops, I'm going to go this. They carried it to stop it. What you're seeing here is not them voting in the affirmative as much as voting against Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment to stop sending money to Ukraine. The Greene of Georgia Part A Amendment number 116 on agreeing to the amendment. Republicans 76 yay, 141 nay, 6 no votes, like non-voting. Democrats no, 212. Everybody. Independents, there aren't any. It lost her amendment to try and stop things. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene's mad, and that's why funding to support Ukraine will continue, is because, and they didn't just vote that down because they don't like her, although there's plenty of reasons for that to be the reason. But in this particular instance, it was because that's the way the American people feel. We do have representative government in some areas, and it still does exist. And there are certainly some people who are waiting for permission from the president to do the will of the people, especially on the Republican side. But it happened.
Well,
so
and the American people, rightfully so, recognize that Russia is an aggressor, and the reason for this war is the madman in the Kremlin. And so I think that Marge, as much as she consumes Russian propaganda, which she does, the vast number of Americans, I think, still recognize that this is on Putin. This whole thing is on Putin, and all the Ukrainians are doing is trying to resist. And that's something, as a former colonial power, a subjected colonial power from Great Britain, we have commonality. Ukrainians don't want to belong to Moscow.
Right.
And that's something a lot of Americans understand.
Russians increasingly don't. Yeah. There was great footage of this like these people standing up in, opposition stuff starting to form in the streets. And there was this one guy who's become kind of like a folk hero amongst the Russians. I would advise him not to step near any windows, but he, of this one dude just punching cops in this situation as they try to drive them back. And the guts it would take in that circumstance is extraordinary.
Well, our guest this week on the show is a Russian emigre. She was born in Nizhny Novgorod, but she moved to California, where she's currently an author and a content creator, Evelyn Berry.
Yes.
And we didn't agree on everything because she is very much, still a Russian,
right?
But a Russian dissident. So we saw things differently, but we had a really pleasant exchange of ideas and thoughts, and coming from a place of, she's a Russian who moved to America. I'm an American who moved to the former Russian Empire. And so we kind of have this mirror duality. And I think we're still editing it, but I think it's going to be a good episode. And she is, she's really interesting to talk to because she is a Russian who has integrated herself into America, but still has the understanding of what it is that's driving Putin and the Russian power elite to pursue this war. And it's a good one. It's another good one. So everybody should really check out her channel. She is fantastic in kind of relaying and making it consumable to a Western audience what it is that motivates Russia. So it's Evelyn Berry. And you can check out her channel right now, or you can, wait until Sunday and, check out our exchange to get a perception of kind of what it is she does. It's going to be a good episode.
Awesome. And Johnny Million, by the way, are you live streaming today? Are you gonna?
Not today. No, I did one last night.
Gotcha. Okay, excellent. It's Johnny Million on Twitch and YouTube. And of course, you can follow and watch my show on the regular, including the Wednesday show, the morning show, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do the Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. And Phil joins me for the second hour of the Wednesday show every week, where he is allowed to swear because we're not on the radio and speak what is even more frankly. It's I'm not going to encourage it right now, obviously. And it's difficult. It is genuinely difficult not to when talking about these subjects. Let's grab a few more questions before we run out.
Sure.
What do you got, Johnny?
You're gonna like this username. It's Out of the Silent Patrick. Yeah, they're asking, has Hal covered the new assessment that only 1 of 3 nuclear sites was hit, like everyone but Trump thought?
No, we have not covered that specifically. I mentioned it that only 1 of the 3 sites that was hit was damaged to the point where it slowed it down at all. Like 2 years, I think, was the assessment. The other sites were only set back a couple of months. And the real story is that there are 7 sites, and that they were obviously moving stuff, leading up to it, and that Donald Trump was giving them, a heads up in many ways because that's what Vladimir Putin wants, so that they could move their stuff around. And one of the weirdest things I saw was I covered a Glenn Beck clip this week. It's on the YouTube channel if you want to watch it, where he goes through, he's got 5 different theories of why Trump is hiding the Epstein stuff and all this. And right. And a big portion of it is that, that there's nothing there. And then one of them is that there's he's
5 theories.
He's using it to control the elites and which fits into this idea that, Trump on behalf of, and he threw around this kind of like Russia aspect of it, or the alignment with the Russia hoax idea that he's been trying to put out. But the idea is that Iran is Russia's buddy, so you give him a heads up, you allow him to save face, and that he was saying the Israelis want regime change in Iran, Trump doesn't, so they're trying to use this to force him. This is Israeli compromise through Epstein because he was Jewish, that they're using that to try and get him to stop because Trump doesn't want a regime change. And the weird part is, like, he's willing to split with half of his supporters to keep the Ayatollah in power. Seemed really odd as a fallback to me. That was one of the odd parts. Like, why would you want them to be able to continue their nuclear program? And why would you want them to, even if you don't do it, even if the United States isn't involved, why would you, if Israel's going to do it, they don't need your help to decapitate the regime. Technically speaking, they own the airways. They're still Mossad is still killing like RIGC people in Iran right now. So what? And they're not going to stop, I don't presume. So it's this weird fallback, and ultimately it leads to that he wanted a show of force in the same way that the Iranians, fired missiles that they knew would miss our base in Qatar. He wanted a similar kind of thing. So this goes back to the Russia thing during the first term. Remember when he got all mad because Europe kicked out 60 from all the countries combined, the EU kicked out 60 Russian diplomats, and the U.S. kicked out 60 Russian diplomats. Now, we had a lot more than they did ultimately in one place. But Trump got mad. He was like, no, only kick out the same number that any individual country does, which was like 2. And he was so mad that all these Russians got booted. It's still and it still drags on him, apparently. So I think his playing around with Iran is really his protecting Putin as long as he possibly can. And that's what this 50 days is dragging out. And I feel like it's a dead end. It's a dead end. The FA train and the FO train left the station at the same time on the same track headed towards each other, and there ain't nothing Donald Trump can do about it at all. This is a mess of his own making. Philip Ittner, thank you.
It is a train wreck waiting to happen.
Right. That's right. Yep. Philip Ittner, thank you for joining us. Be safe. Have a great show tomorrow on The Edge. Please subscribe to the show.
It's a good one.
Yep, on YouTube. And of course, Johnny Million, thank you so much. I can't wait for our next live get together in Chicago. I think it'll happen sooner than you might think. And then, of course, I will see you guys on Monday for Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, 3 to 5 on Pacific time in the afternoon. I will see you guys then. We're almost at the tail end of the show. I could talk right up to the second. We're getting close. There we go. Scooby-Doo. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Walk right up to the line.
Talk to you on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Bye. Talk to you guys later. Bye. See you later.
Bye.
Off they go. See, I can let them be free and go without having to kind of dangle too much. It's good. Whoops. Look out. What was that? It's a camera went, but the mic didn't. There you go. Thank you, chat room, as well. I've got to make something because I'm going to make a little scene. Hold on. I'm going to go to this guy. So that I can, I think I've got a fix for the thing where Johnny's camera's always slightly askew. Yeah, is this a square image frame? I think that's what that is. So I'm going to be able to fix that. Is that? Yeah, that's it. Good. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you on the other side. Let's see if we can get this in here. There you go. You are chat room, and you shall be. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else, and I will see you guys on Monday. Let's see. There we go. Oh, yeah. Now I'm going to go see Superman with my kid. For real. We're going to go see, I'm going to take my kid to the movies. Good times. All right, where's I have an end screen, don't I? Sure I do.